You know, as much as I have tried to stay focused on the issues going on in Central America, the ignorance and the incompetence back here with the administrator keeps bleeding into it. We now have a second country, not including Cuba here, that has signed a deal for Russian wheat, the Brazilians. So now the Russians have a complete solid foothold in Cuba, in Venezuela, and now Brazil. It's just amazing. It's absolutely, if you had told me this 25 years ago, that the Russians would be feeding South America because the U.S. had elected someone who thought he was going to make America great again? Is this the definition? Seriously. Just nominated a guy who, for a court position as a judge, who had never tried a case. I really am trying to not talk about this, but when you look at what's going on in Central America, it's going to be, it's all playing out exactly like someone wrote the script for it. I mean, I can't think of a country now that is our ally that has any level of respect for us. There's parts of Great Britain that have decided they don't even want our leader to be there, banned from travel there. He has disrespected Canada and their leader. He has disrespected Mexico, their people, and their leader. Even if that wasn't his intent, that's the perception. The people down in Central America and South America have no use for the U.S. now. And the Russians are taking advantage of it. The reason I brought this up here, this Columbia exceeds 100 semi-submersibles, is because of this other decision about the Navy deciding to get rid of the Oliver Hazard Perry frigates and replacing them with ships that aren't even ready yet. This is going to be the first time this year or next year when the U.S. will not have any frigates at all. And this is in Southcom. This is right here in our hemisphere. So just to look at the map, to put a face on all of this, the Russians are now firmly in control of Cuba. The Puerto Ricans are very, very disillusioned with their association with the U.S. That could be a video series in and of itself that they might leave. Venezuela has signed a deal with Russia to import wheat. Now we see the Brazilians, largest military other than us and the Canadians in the hemisphere, has now decided to import food from Russia. The U.S. has decided to decertify Colombia as a partner in the war on drugs. They're going to oust, more than likely, Kaczynski from Peru and put his vice president in charge. He was a U.S. ally. The Bolivians and the Venezuelans might as well be, the same country. Daniel Ortega's in charge of Nicaragua. I mean, can you tell me anywhere down there where the U.S. has any kind of interest other than Panama and Costa Rica? How long do you think these two little spits of land are going to last? They're just going to have to read the writing on the wall and see what's going on around them. It's kind of terrifying, really, because when they, if you want to read about, by the way, if you want to read about the Oliver Hazard Perry class frigate, that's kind of a hard thing to say. They were originally designed anti-submarine. Oliver Hazard Perry class frigates were designed primarily as anti-aircraft, anti-submarine warfare, guided missile warships intended to provide open ocean escort of amphibious warfare ships and merchant ships. The ships, they're going to say that they're going to replace them with these Littoral ones. We've got them stationed up here at Naval Station Mayport, but they have all sorts of problems. The way they put these things together and the mission, they're just not working out. And I'm telling you something, folks. We are leaving a giant hole down there. A huge, huge hole. And they are going to take advantage of it. I've heard so many people come to the channel and say, you know, the U.S. will never allow the Russians or the Venezuelans to do this with the Panamanians. That, you know, they'll put this ship in place and that ship in place, or they'll send these planes, or that might not be there. Might not have the ability to. Because of this hole being created in the Navy in Southcom, now that there's no frigates, and not just in Southcom. If I read the article that I read right, I'll put it in the next video. If I can find it, there's going to be this giant loophole between the time when the littorals come online and they have decommissioned these ships. I think it was in this article, actually. This Gary Wetzel, it's down here. You can find it for yourself. This is Foxtrot Alpha. This is actually a really good site to go find stuff about the military. And it'll tell you about the role and the problems that have happened with the littoral combat ships that are supposed to replace these older, aging frigates. But these people are still trying to move drugs, and now it's going to be free-day recess. And part of me, you know, I said this a long time ago, and I've made a bunch of videos detailing this. When people think of the drug problem from the southern part of this hemisphere moving north, they think of it all in one context. It's not. It absolutely is not. You have the Mexicans over here, you have the overland route here, and then you have the overwater route here. You didn't hear about, back in the 80s, about cocaine and stuff coming through Mexico and up through Texas. You heard about it over here in Florida and Cuba. I mean, the whole Miami Vice thing, you know, I'm not saying that was accurate, but I mean, it was just the idea, and it was the perception. In Florida, it is so much easier for these guys to put these little semi-submersibles through here, and, you know, now that, you know, they can bribe their way through Cuba to come in through Florida. And this was our current administrator's backyard. You have to remember something. In 2015, and I covered this too, you have to ask yourself, why would a man running for the presidency of the United States spend $90 million on a hotel in downtown Medellin, Colombia? Why would he do that? Just the optics of it alone would be poor. But of course, the only place that's ever reported on it is here. I haven't seen anyone else bring it up. And he sent his sons to cut deals in Uruguay and Ecuador and travel down there. And now all of a sudden, I mean, I've never really made any issue of this collaboration with the Russians or collusion or whatever they're doing. I mean, spies in Washington. I mean, dog chases cat. And this guy's been in Washington and been part of the political scene in Washington since the 90s. He's not some outsider new sheriff in town. He never has been. He's given money to more Democrats than he has Republicans, but now we're seeing, you know, the Russians now making deals where they can sell food to Brazil, they can sell food to Venezuela, they're making inroads in Colombia. It's almost like they feel like now it's perfectly okay. What's changed in the last year to make the Russians believe that they now have an open door into this hemisphere? Mark my words, folks, Panama's next. Because it's only going to be a matter of time. And the Chinese aren't going to have a problem with it. They're not going to have a problem with it. They don't care who they pay the fees to, who they pay the money to. The U.S. interest in here, honest to God, if I had relations down there, I would tell them, move out now. If you're in Costa Rica, you're in Panama, you're living there, get out now. Because it's only going to be a matter of time. It may not even be this thing where, you know, I thought it's going to be a shooting. There's not going to be much of a shooting war. The Panamanians have no military. If they want it, they could just go take it. This whole argument that, oh, you know, Venezuela has no military and their economy is terrible. It's baloney. Go look at global firepower. They have a very, very big military. And the Colombians report that they have 500,000 men under arms on active duty. I'm calling bullshit on that. They've got a lot more than Venezuela, don't get me wrong, but 500,000? I don't know. I mean, they may be counting police forces in that as well, but I'd have to look at that. But the Venezuelans got everything they need. And the way things are going, they may not have to. I mean, who knows what's going on with the Russians and the Chinese behind the scenes with this canal. It could just be a matter of time. So, anyway, 10 minutes, usually my limit. Thank you so much for the patience. I hope everyone is having a wonderful holiday season. I'm going to try to not do a whole lot of these during this time, just because it's, time to be spent with family and not to be all upset with what's going on in the world. But if something happens, I'll definitely get to it. So, you folks have a wonderful holiday. Love your family. Spend time with your family. Enjoy the blessings that we have in this country. We're very, very lucky. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thank you.